Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Larry Coco, Director of Educational Technology for the New Jersey Department of Education, and this presentation tonight is under the auspices of GAME, or Gamers Advancing Meaningful Education. I'm a guild officer for this wonderful group, and we are an organization for educators who game, who want to learn how to game, and are looking to incorporate gaming strategies into teaching and learning. You can learn more at our website, and the address is right there in front of you. And we'll also be posting that in the resources section for the recorded webinar. This is the second game webinar in our monthly series, which happens every third Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Please join us whenever you can for future episodes. Tonight we'll be talking to Marianne Malmstrom, who is also known as in virtual education and gaming spaces as No Clue Kid, about her experiences in integrating the game Minecraft into the curriculum and learning activities at the Elizabeth Morrow School in Englewood, New Jersey. Marianne is a recognized leader in the use of virtual environments, games, and digital multimedia resources in education. A technology teacher at the Elizabeth Morrow School, she has 30 years' experience as a classroom teacher and administrator. Marianne has been selected by the National Association of Independent Schools as part of its Teachers of the Future program, and her work with colleagues at Elizabeth Morrow has received international recognition, including awards from both WNET's Celebration of Teaching and Learning and Flat Classroom Project's NetGen project. I first met Marianne a couple of years ago when she collaborated with Kevin Jarrett and myself to do a presentation on the use of Second Life as a virtual educational environment at a New Jersey Association for Supervisors and Curriculum Developers conference. I've attended several of her presentations since then at ISTE and other venues, and I'm really looking forward to the conversation tonight. Some technical notes before we start. Marianne will be showing us some video along with live in-game experiences and PowerPoint slides. Some of the live or recorded scenes from Minecraft that you will see may not have optimum image quality due to the limitations of YouTube, but we will be posting high-quality images via Flickr, and links to those images and other resources will be posted in the description section of the recorded webinar. Now, during the webinar, you can ask questions at any time in the live comments section on the right of your YouTube screen if you're logged into your YouTube account. Also, for those of you joining us in Second Life, same thing. Go ahead and type your questions in chat, and we'll get to as many of those as we can. We'll try to get to as many of these questions during the session as we can, depending on the flow of conversation. And we also plan to have 10 minutes or so at the end of the hour for a general question and answer and discussion session. The session will be recorded and be available for on-demand viewing at the Game MOOC YouTube channel, which basically is the same link you use to access the live webinar. I'd also like to acknowledge, before we go on, our organizers and the magicians behind the curtain for tonight's event. Kay Novak, she's an instructional designer for Front Range Community College, organizer of the Games-Based Learning MOOC, chair-elect for the ISTE Special Interest Group for Virtual Environments, ISTE Mobile Steering Committee member, guild officer in the Educators Guild Cognitive Dissonance in WOW, as well as in GAME. And also with Kay is Chris Lukes. He's the Associate Dean for Career and Technical Education at Colorado Community College System. And he's also a guild officer in Cognitive Dissonance as well as in the GAME community. So Marianne, I'd like to start out, and I've asked you this before and I've always loved your answer, but can you tell us the genesis of your name, No Clue?
Well, it was a few years ago, and I was looking for an online name, and I running through a lot of things, and I finally came up with the fact that the teachers at the school were always telling me they had no clue when it came to anything with technology. It was like, I have no clue, I have no clue. And I thought, that's it, that's perfect. That's what my name's going to be, and I'll go on a journey to try to find a clue.
And you have found quite a few clues. I can attest to that. So can you start off the session by telling us about your ongoing search for engaging and effective educational environments at the Elizabeth Morrow School and how that research led you to Minecraft?
Well, yeah, I've been at the Elizabeth Morrow School for 20 years, and much of that was in the classroom, and just always been passionate about creating authentic learning spaces for kids. And as what happens with a lot of teachers, if you show if you're good with technology, you often end up being asked to be in the lab full time. And so I was ready for a change and a challenge, and I really liked our school's policy when adopting new technology, because who knew? I mean, we're all struggling with trying to have the crystal ball and know what's going to come next. So we have really pretty good guideline. We decided we would not adopt any new technology unless it allowed us to do what we already do better, or allowed us to do something that we thought was important that we couldn't do before. And that was kind of how we got into creating media and developing that media program. And when virtual worlds came along and I got my first taste of virtual worlds, I immediately saw those as a very powerful tool for recreating learning in the classroom.
Okay. Now, you were going to show us a video clip. Is that available of a statement from, I think, the president of NAIS?
Yes, Pat Bassett. And I think I've been very inspired by him. And actually, he has been responsible for opening the door for the program that we've built. Because when I went in and knocked on my headmaster's door 5 years ago and said, I want a program in Second Life, our head had already actually heard of Second Life from Pat Bassett, and so I've been following him and what he has to say about education. And he recently gave a TEDx talk at, I think, St. George's School. It was last spring, and I just love this snippet because I think it gets to really the heart of the philosophy that drives me and what we need to keep in mind as educators as we're trying to figure out how to move forward. So let me just change to screen share. And I'm just going to put up the slide that he's talking about, this shift from knowing to doing.
So the MacArthur Foundation is a great resource for people who want to think about the future of education. They've identified a handful of shifts that I want to put the flesh around the skeleton of the ideas for you. And the first shift that's elemental is the shift between knowing and doing. And so what I want to say about that is that for all of those 2,500 years until the last 10 years, education was restricted. Access to information and knowledge was restricted for that entire, in fact, probably for the 12,000 years of human life that we know of. It was restricted to those in power, those who had been educated. So it was restricted to the leaders, the shaman, the powerful, the professors, the teachers. That just changed in the last decade. Because now everyone has access through the internet to everything. Facts and knowledge and ideas, anywhere, anytime. That has so changed. It is the biggest revolution in the history of civilization, frankly. You don't recognize it yet because you're at the front end of it. But that changes the basic dynamic and the basic expectation for teaching, I believe, in the future. If already you have access to knowing through the internet. So what I'm saying is that the power of knowledge and information has just been distributed globally. And that suggests a different role for teaching and learning. So, doing. Robotics, you've heard many times in your exposure to schools, is a growing trend, let's say, in schools. This happens to be an international school, and these are young kids. These are third and fourth graders on teams, collaboratively taking on a fairly sophisticated STEM task: science, technology, engineering, and math. In this case, their robot, they have to build and program to find its way through a labyrinth, and at the end of the labyrinth, toss them all in through a hoop. Now, I just want to say to the parents and the grandparents in the room, you want your kids to be in a school where third and fourth graders have that level of sophistication. And I'd like to say to the educators in the room that this embodies even a greater shift for us to this extent. For all these centuries, and actually millennia, for the 1,400 years of universities, let's put it that way, we have organized knowledge in subject areas, as if the subject itself were the end game. Well, that's actually going to change in the future. Subjects will be in the service of creation. Right? We'll still teach science and math and technology and engineering, but not as an end in of itself, but in the service of having kids actually create something, do something with the knowledge. This is a very big change.
Wow, isn't that beautiful?
Yeah, and I think we should tell the audience that we had a graphic up because the video we found didn't transfer very well to YouTube, but we will have the video going with the audio on the recorded session. So please take a look at that then. But the power of his statement about having students take command of their own learning and creativity, I think really helps set up the whole discussion that we're going to have tonight about Minecraft. So I think you were going to talk next about the mechanics of the game and show us a little bit of what happens in the game itself. And we'll be coming back to this theme of how gaming and self-expression and creativity is so important for today's learners.
Certainly. Well, I have been in a lot of virtual worlds and MMOGs and in the classroom. And so I've had a lot of experience with different kinds of platforms, and frankly, when I saw Minecraft for the first time, I was not very impressed. I guess I could say I was underwhelmed, and it was only really when my students requested that we play Minecraft that I started to pay attention. Is the game coming up on the screen, Larry?
Yes, it is. Great.
So basically, what makes this different from other virtual worlds and games, it's more of a mashup of a virtual world and a game, because you have the sandbox, like in Second Life or Open Sim, where you can create anything within the constraints of the game. Well, in Minecraft even more because of the mods. But Minecraft, beyond being able to create anything, has a game mechanic in that there's a day-night cycle that runs about in 15-minute intervals, and at night the monsters come out and pose a threat, so you can die and you can lose your things. That is optional. You are actually able to play in several modes. You could choose to play by yourself, or you can play on a server with friends. You can turn it into creative mode so that you have complete control to build anything you want and have an infinite bucket of bricks. Or you can play survival, where you can fall off things and die and lose your inventory. This is your inventory right here, all the things that you've collected. Or you can be killed by a monster and lose your inventory. So that threat or that tension in the game adds a lot of excitement that I didn't really appreciate when I was just working in platforms like OpenSim or Second Life. And the other thing is, it's very flexible, so you can set up a server at your school. Students can do a project and set up a server to share with another student on a computer. Or we can run a project for an entire class and host it at our school, and so the kids can access it only while they're in class, and we can turn it on or turn it off, or have multiple copies of the same world for several different classes in the same grade. It's very accessible because you only buy one license and you don't have a subscription. And the other thing is, you can host a server for your school remotely and secure that with a whitelist so that your students can play after school hours. So from a point of view logistically, I like having all of those options. I'm currently on our 24/7 server, and it looks like we've got some kids in, as well as Mr. Mom, who is our project leader. And I'm just going to TP over to our creative world, where the kids can build anything, and just take a quick look at how it's like Lego bricks. Imagine, you can get up here. You can see, if I scroll around here, that the kids get pretty creative in what they build.
And you've given them free form to build whatever they want. This is totally on their own and their own creativity.
Absolutely. This is where we're visiting right now is Morrowcraft, our 24/7 server. And actually it was designed by the kids. We started the server almost immediately when we started our Minecraft program, because we felt it was important, if we were going to introduce the kids to a game where they would want to go home and play, that we also provide them with a safe place to play, so that they weren't going home, getting accounts, and going playing who knows where. The kids have divided this server into 3 worlds. They have the creative world. They have a survival world where there's no PvP, which means player versus player. And they have a PvP world for the older kids where they can go in and play in that mode if they like. And that was by their design.
So I just want to mention again for everyone on YouTube and in Second Life that if you do have any questions at this point or comments, please type them in and they'll get relayed to us. Now, in terms of the game itself, can you talk a little bit about the process that you went through? I believe you were telling me in our discussions a few days ago about how you actually invited the students in, I think not this last summer, but 2 summers ago, to just play the game and start getting a sense of how you could use it and how that all worked out, the process of developing the integration into the curriculum that you currently have.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, as I've been working in virtual worlds, we've always had curriculum, but in many of the worlds we've also had space for the kids to play in those spaces. And what I realized watching them was the most interesting things were happening when the kids were playing, as we were doing some great lessons, but the really exciting things were happening there. But I was still feeling like, you know, this is school and we have to be, you know, focused and we have to have curriculum. And then something very interesting happened. There's a group in Australia called Massively Minecraft, community-based, and 3 fabulous educators, Dean Groom, Bron Stuckey, and Joe Kay, I'm sorry, I'm doing a blank on your last name, because we all know her as Joe Kay, decided to put this community server together with students, educators, parents, to start understanding this platform. And their philosophy was very clear that you don't lay down any curriculum until you've spent a significant amount of time just playing with kids in an environment and understanding how they use it. And it was just the push that we needed to say, we're going to do this, because this is, you know, I was already seeing that, and so it gave us courage to say for the summer program, we're just going to play. And it was the single most important decision we have made in respect to letting our program move forward, because what we learned that summer, and it was 6 weeks, and the kids would come in and they could either play Lego Universe, which is no longer, has since closed down. They could play Minecraft, or they could go into OpenSim. And some kids chose to come in and do artwork in Adobe Photoshop. So they really did have choice. Most of the kids were playing, and at the end of the summer, what we discovered is that the kids were developing these really complex communities, and that was astonishing. But what blew me away is that they were creating games within the games, and several of them. And I had not anticipated that. I would have not have thought of that in a million years. And that's when we knew we had something really, really important going on.
So instead of constructing a learning path for your students, where you basically designed a game and a learning environment that would lead them to conclusions and knowledge that you expected them to get to, you opened it up, you let them be creative, you let them play on their own, and what you found is that they came up with their own collaborations, their own learning experiences, I imagine their own leadership, and had learning happen that you hadn't anticipated or even expected. Is that fair to say?
That's absolutely accurate. And so it got us thinking different about the game in terms of what we were witnessing in their community and how they were problem solving, how they were having fights and resolving those issues, how they were starting to play across the grades. And the play was giving us ideas about how to design curriculum during the school year that was better equipped to take advantage of what this platform had to offer, instead of thinking in terms of old school and how we've done things in the past, and that we have to sit the kids down and you're going to do this today, and this is our objective. We started thinking more abstractly based on their play, and setting up some challenges to go more in that direction.
So you mentioned across the grades. Is there mentoring going on, student to student, that happened without you setting up any kind of formal program?
Yeah, that was, I think, one of the biggest surprises. First of all, Minecraft, out of everything that we've introduced at school, seems to be the one gender equalizer. It brings girls to the table as much as it does boys. They're just as interested, and that was, first of all, a really great thing, because I know if you've been working with technology, and it's sometimes hard to coax the girls to come in, and so we were seeing this, massive interest from both our girls and our guys. But then we started realizing that this was across the grades, where we started the program in 7th grade. As soon as the kids knew we had Minecraft going, I had 5th graders and 6th graders saying, we want to play. And then the word got down to the other school, and we had 3rd graders and 4th graders saying, I want to play. And one day I had a 1st grader standing in my doorway. I don't even teach 1st grade. Just staring at me. And I finally said, can I help you? And he said, I want to play Minecraft. So we've really had to adjust to the kids' interests. And at first we only had our middle schoolers on our 24/7 server. We had so many kids lobbying us, and some parents, that we had to open it up to 3rd and 4th grade. And what we saw was there really was this mentoring, but in a very playful way, the way that I remembered playing in my neighborhoods when I was a kid. We didn't break ourselves down based in grades. We were just the neighborhood kids. And, the older kids would school you, but you wanted to be like them, so you try. It's just that dynamics of the play, that dynamic of play that we were witnessing in Minecraft, especially in our after hours, our 24/7 server.
We're getting some questions about the makeup of your students. First one is, what's the demographics of your students? What kind of students do you have there at the school? How many grades are in the school? What grades did you start out with Minecraft, and how many grades are in Minecraft now?
Okay, so we have, our school is about 450-ish. We go to K through 8. So an average class size is somewhere 35-ish, a little give or take depending on the grade. And we started Minecraft in 7th grade in a tech club. We actually had a group that was beta testing a virtual world that actually disappeared overnight. So I had to come up with something on the fly, and I actually had access to Second Life still at that time, and they were old enough. And we had World of Warcraft, and I sat down with them. I said, what do you want to do, World of Warcraft, Second Life? And they said, no, we want to do Minecraft. So that's what really started the program, and I would say that was in early spring of 2011. We immediately started our server, and I had an after-school class. The after-school class demanded to play Minecraft, and our program was full that summer. It moved so quickly.
Couple more questions. How many computers are in the lab where they play? And is it just your classes and in the lab where they play Minecraft, or is it diffused throughout the building with other teachers? How does that work?
We don't have any other teachers playing Minecraft. We actually had to take some time and educate our teachers about what was going on because they were getting very annoyed. The kids wanted to play Minecraft all the time. And so we took the time to walk through the pedagogy of, and the rationale for why we were doing it. And we actually ended up having to ban the kids from playing Minecraft outside of the lab because it was just out of control. But that's part of the thing that we're talking about with teachers and parents is, yes, this is a phenomenon around the world, and it's okay. I'm glad the kids are so excited, but we're the adults, and we're also helping them set some healthy parameters for their game use.
I'm being asked to make a technical announcement for the folks out there. If you're not seeing all the comments, you need to refresh your comment stream, and that's how you'll be able to keep up with the chat that's going on. You mentioned parents. Could you talk a little bit about how parents are supportive of this, what your outreach was, and the overall methods to make sure that it was an accepted and worthwhile program?
Yeah, it has been, I think, really the most effective way we have found to bring parents to the table to talk about the way their kids are living online. There's a real... You know, people think about social media, they think about middle school and Facebook and Formspring and all the things and places that middle schoolers are living. But they don't realize that very, very young children are living online via these games and emojis, and they're using social media to talk to each other, and Skype and Twitter. And so we're trying to educate parents without freaking them out. There's a lot of good information that really what's going online is not is pretty healthy, and the kids are not doing all the things we worry about. But I do want parents to know that we have third graders that are creating their own servers, and I want parents to know that when their kids are playing emojis, they're going onto somebody's server and playing with other people. And so this game has been really the great way to bring that conversation together. We actually had a Bring Your Parent to Game Day where the parents came in and played with the kids for about an hour and a half and saw the learning that was embedded in the game. And then we let the kids continue to play while we talked to the parents about, no, your child is probably not addicted to Minecraft. They're just very excited, and you can pull the plug, and this is very common, and you need to know where your children are playing. And they have been so appreciative to have that dialogue and learn more about how their kids live online.
And it appears that you've managed to ignite the love of learning and discovery. You have students on just about every night, correct? At home?
Pretty much.
And they're accessing the safe server, right, that you've set up, the 24/7 server. And I think the term you used in previous conversations is there's a whitelist.
There is a whitelist. So when a student wants to come on to Tomorrowcraft, they have to fill out a very simple form with their parent, reminding them at school and 4 C's, respect. And then once that's done, we whitelist them. And we run the server 24/7 on purpose because we feel like it's not our job to put the kids to bed. It's the parents' job. This is a partnership. Our job is to give them a safe place to play. We feel like if we shut down at 10, we don't know where the kids go. And so that's been an interesting thing to work through with the parents, but I think they get that, and they really appreciate having that space. And we're now getting a lot of questions from parents even younger in grades 1 and 2 wanting to have access to that space. The one surprise has been that because we have kids now wanting to, create their own mods and make their own servers, it's very interesting that I've got these kids that are making their own servers, and then the cool thing is because I'm an adult in their life, they want me to come see it, and I can go see their server, and then I can have a conversation. Do your parents know you have the server? Is it private or public? And then help them navigate and help them develop those healthy norms we want them to see. And they're very open, and now that they understand those things, they're trying to help each other. if we didn't have that server where we shared that as a community, those kids would be out there doing that anyway without any kind of adult mentor to give them information and help.
So we have a few more questions coming in, and these are very good questions. Can you talk a little bit about the learning objectives, how it's integrated into the curriculum?
Yeah, absolutely. Really what we're trying to do with these participatory social platforms is pick up some of the learning that we see missing in our regular curriculum at school. So our objective is to have every grade have a exposure to a virtual world. And we pick different worlds for different grades for different purposes. I thought last year was a great example. The director of our department, Sarah Raleigh, who's phenomenal in making this all happen, she teaches second grade, and she took them into Minecraft for 2 weeks just so they could feel what it feels like to move through a 3D space and to know that those other avatars are real people, which is important concept for them to understand. And when you're in class, you can see each other, and they would get out of their seats and come see me. And so for that grade, it was just an introduction. In another grade, we might be in an Open Sim or Quest Atlantis. But for Minecraft, we've actually, because it's such a great platform, we've used it at second grade, we've used it at third, fifth, and then after that it's for student-driven projects where they choose where they want to work.
Okay. Moving on to another question. Can you talk a little bit about methods that you're using to measure what they're learning? And this could be actually a much larger conversation than that. The whole the whole issue of assessment with gaming and learning is a large one, but can we start out with talking about how you're doing that assessment and measurement?
Yep, and I'm going to invite you to go back and listen to the whole TEDx talk from Pat Bassett, because he definitely gets into the assessment piece, and then it's going to be product-based. I think in the real world, if you're manufacturing something, it's in the artifact. Did you do it successfully? And I don't think it's that different for games. Certainly, if you're playing World of Warcraft, have you successfully finished the quest? So it can be incremental like that in those small pieces. Last year in fifth grade, we had them work on building houses. They could build by themselves, or they could build in teams. There was a rubric from basic, construct a house that will keep you safe from monsters tonight, to I think the top level was create something that nobody else has thought of. And their final artifact was to create a machinima, which is a video of their house, but we looked at actual real estate commercials, and because some of the houses weren't finished, it was great, and how real estate people sell houses in real life by emphasizing all of the most desirable points. And so the kids made a 1-minute video of their house to show off how all of the most desirable points according to the rubric. So.
Yeah, and we have a question, another really great question, asking if you could talk about college and career readiness, about how playing Minecraft or other similar activities would help get them ready for college or career. And I think at the end, I'm going to ask Chris Lukes, one of our support folks here and a guild member in game, to also answer that, because he's at the community college level, then associate dean, CTE is his field, and I think it would be good to get that perspective also. But if you could answer that from your perspective, please.
Yeah, actually, Micah, who's the program project director for Minecraft, and I were discussing this today, and I would actually like to push a little bit further than college, because we were talking about how playing these games is really prep for life. And I don't mean that in a, this is, it sounds a little ambitious, but what we're seeing is most of what we get in school is consumption and spoon-fed, and here's the information, and master this information, and take the test, and then you can move on, and we can measure all of that. But the reality is that we live in this world that is changing so quickly that the best skill you can have possibly is your ability to adapt and to learn new things on the fly. Because all of that information that is packaged up in school is not going to do us a lot of good when we have to adapt quickly. And you were talking about how hard it is for us as adults to deal with all of this change. And, you know, Micah is in a position as our technology guru who keeps everything working to always be giving assistance to all of the adults, including myself. I'm guilty of this. And how it's so hard for us to know how to adapt and learn these new skills, where when you're in a game, nobody's like Minecraft, you have to figure it out. You have to either read about it yourself, you have to ask a friend, you have to experiment till you learn. And it's that kind of learning modality that's really going to help our kids function best in this world that's changing in such a way, at such a speed, that none of us are going to be able to predict how to prepare these kids. So the best we can do is prepare them to be really successful learners, problem solvers, be creative, learn to collaborate. And that is what I think that these games do the best. So will it prepare them for college? Well, if college is going in and doing more of the same, I don't know. But if colleges are going to change like the world is, then I would say yes. I'd like to hear what Chris has to say about that.
Before we go to Chris, if you want, we could continue the conversation right now. You want to come in and do that in a minute. But I wanted to quote from an article that you wrote, and the quote is, "The heart of 21st century learning is not about the tools. It is all about learning how to learn. Helping our students become proficient and independent lifelong learners is central to their success in navigating through uncharted change." I love that quote. And I think that also encapsulates how the programs like the one you've set up get students ready for 21st century college and career. So, Chris, do you want to chime in at this point about college and career readiness from your perspective as Associate Dean for CTE?
Sure. Basically, one of the nice things about Minecraft is that really what a lot of students are exhibiting is the critical thinking and the problem-solving skills that a lot of our employers are looking for, especially in the area of CTE. A lot of industries coming to the colleges based on our industry panel, and this is nationwide what we're hearing. And what they're asking us for is they really want students to graduate from the college level ready and able to become strategic partners to the business. They want them to be able to recognize there's a problem. They want them to be able to do the research to fix it. They want them to go ahead and be able to come up with multiple possible solutions. And then go ahead and choose the best solution and then implement the solution and then follow up and evaluate. So they really want them to show these skill sets. And so what Marianne was talking about was that that's what her students are doing all the time in Minecraft, is they're figuring out problems and saying, hey, here are the problems. Let me come up with a bunch of different ideas on how to solve this problem. They also want collaborative teamwork, which definitely occurs in Minecraft from the tours that I've been involved in on the Marocraft server. And so, I mean, really, I think this is really sort of reinforcing those 21st century learning skills that they're looking for. And now to switch to sort of career focus, I definitely see this being very applicable to anybody in the multimedia graphic design field, because even though these textures and are very like old school, like 32-bit, the thing about it is that it still takes a lot of technical expertise to make this look good. And a lot of the add-ons you see in Minecraft that a lot of students are doing, as well as a lot of other players are doing, are really geared towards creating unique textures. And through that, they have to master tools like Paint, like Photoshop, like GIMP. There's all these different attributes they have to figure out. In addition to that, then you have the computer science side as well, because a lot of this stuff is also starting to drop into the coding aspect of the game, because many of the games like Minecraft and other games are opening up their code to allow students to go ahead and create those add-ons and to go ahead and create and implement the textures and import the textures. One of the things that Miriam was talking about was setting up servers. I know that I've seen college students who set up their own servers. They didn't want to pay for third-party hosting, so they developed their own server. They researched it on the web and came up and figured out how to fix that. So there's lots of really cool, when you go to Minecraft, they call it emergent play. Really what I see in games like Minecraft and these sandbox genres is emergent learning. You're seeing a lot of students who are really coming up with new ways to learn key concepts. The struggle we have as academics is trying to put in and say, okay, these fit these core competencies, and I think what it comes down to is, have you played the game? And the more you play the game, the more you see where those connections are.
Great, thank you for adding that excellent comment. We had talked, and I think we should get into now a little bit about the projects that your students came up with in the course of the Minecraft experience at the school. You had mentioned that they came up with their own role-playing game with a magic school, and also they developed their own Hunger Games game, as well as a social event at the school itself. It was the first student conceived and executed and carried out event there at the school. So could you talk a little bit about that experience? Because I think that'll show also what the students are learning when they're given the opportunity to be creative, to take leadership, to do their collaborations, and go ahead and create their own experiences.
Yeah, I'd love to. I'm going to just move quickly through a few of these slides because we talked about that earlier. We talked about the kids creating games, but as we've had this server going for about 1.5 years now, one of the things that's been really interesting to watch is the role-playing, and it gets highly organized. And I think it was, I'm trying to think, last spring, the kids had found a mod. They come in, and when they find mods is you can change a portion of the game or a mod pack up the whole game. They come in and then they lobby Mr. Malmstrom or myself to get the game changed. And they found this magic mod, and I come in one week and they have built this entire magic school. It was very complex. It was completely developed. Here's one of the students who's asking me if I want to learn a really cool new spell, which I think was the Zeus. But you see, they completely built this massive Harry Potter kind of facility. And complete with chandeliers. It was massive. It was so impressive, the build. They had a magic council, and I was feeling a little left out because by the time I got in, I had to queue up to get on the council. And they had their own seats, and they had levels, they had rules, they had what spells you could use, and banding, dart, and magic. And it was just very complex. And this was all within the play. They had this social structure. And it was funny because when I wanted to learn the spells, and I really wanted to learn the spells, they complete role reversal being the teacher. And it was fun to step into that role and be the student. And they even had recess. In a more organized form of that same spirit, Hunger Games, I think anybody who's played Minecraft in school has probably done the Hunger Games, and it generally comes from the students. And the students in this case actually contacted us via email, which is funny because they never use email anymore. And they made a proposal. They wanted to play Hunger Games as an after-school social project. It was the first student-organized social in our middle school, and we've been in middle school now, I think, for 8 or 9 years, and it was the first social that had included all grades from 5 to 8. So the kids organized it. They came in and did the work to set up the servers. The only thing Mr. Malmstrom and I did was set up the space for them on a Friday afternoon for 2 hours in the lab. I think Ms. Malmstrom gave them a little bit of technical assistance. But you can see we had every space in the lab filled with laptops. The kids brought in their own laptops. And we had so much fun playing for 2 hours. This game that the kids had organized, and I think it was really one of the most bonding activities we have done as a school. Just, as teachers, we organized so many things for them and a lot of cool things, but this came from them, and it was really a privilege to be part of that activity. I want to talk just briefly about the difference between what we've learned when we make curriculum, because we still make, we still design curriculum units for the kids, and what we learn when we give them more space. So this last fall, we worked on a colonial unit to go with our third grade study of colonial America, and we actually enlisted the help of some of our 7th and 8th graders, and we designed this skeleton of a deserted colony and a few resources, and we were trying to design something that would get the kids to work together. And we learned a lot in the iterations of playing the game, and the kids had a blast. I think as teachers, when we assessed the program, we felt like we hadn't quite hit the mark, and talked a lot about how to redesign the activity next year to get closer to that. But so I think we were feeling a little unsatisfied with what we had intended and what the results were. Even though the kids had fun, we felt they could have been better. So this summer we decided to do a different iteration of a similar kind of activity, but to make it a game and to bring the kids in on designing the game. And we were very upfront. We decided the objective of the game, but then we told the kids at camp, hey, we're going to do this game. We want to be able to play it ultimately with other schools. We want you to help design. And a couple of kids stepped up and helped design the game. And what happened after was so magical for the rest of the summer. We played several weeks. And I want to show you it's a little 1.5-minute snippet. I don't know how it's going to play. But I was always recording with screen capture the play. And the kids came up after the end of class, and they saw that the screen capture was playing back, and they started discussing what had happened in the game. And we were trying to simulate death and destruction coming from the world falling apart. And listen to how they take me to task because the fireballs were not realistic. And I think it shows you the sophistication of their engagement and also designing a better product.
Okay, he's going to promise not to come say it's got eggs right there.
Yes, I was spawning Enderman and Silverfish and...
Yeah, Silverfish. Yeah.
Remember,
you were the one who spawned that Enderman? Wait,
no, I didn't. The baby just bombs for this.
They're annoying. Silverfish? They're weak.
So my question to you guys, listen up. My question is, so as game designers, do you agree that having all of that chaos makes the game more interesting and more exciting?
More annoying.
Yeah, well, it is annoying, but it's supposed to be.
I think it's interesting, but I don't think it's like Legend of Zelda. So don't we need to win?
Yeah, okay, I'm trying to simulate that.
Like I've learned, players don't like when you do unrealistic, cheap stuff like that.
Okay, so I get the fireball thing, but we're trying to simulate earthquakes. So what about?
No. If they make a hole in the top, you can do like a strike or a fireball.
What about doing strikes underground?
Well, it's a hole. If there's like a hole, then you can do it.
I think we need to change the backstory that it's not just asteroids, that the whole world is
falling apart.
boiling apart from the
How's it
inside.
falling apart? The core of the world is wobbling and it's going to implode.
Okay, so I take your criticism seriously. It shouldn't be changed.
So you're saying that the middle of the world is a hole, they could do a strike, they make like a big hole, they could do a fireball.
All right.
So, you may not have been able to hear all of the conversation, but they basically were taking me to task that the effects were not realistic enough. And so having that kind of input from the kids, and the ownership, the discussions that came from that, and the kids were picking the leaders, and then they were assessing how effective the leaders were, and I was really touched. This one young girl got voted in as leader, as they had designed, and then she wasn't very strong, but she was like a third grader going into fourth grade, and the kids were the ones, they were very honest. They said, hey, it's okay. It takes practice. I wasn't a good leader when I started, but I've had a lot of practice. You'll get better. And I thought, how could I design something like that? Because leadership is not just a skill you are born with. You have to have practice. And here these kids are creating the space where they can do that and mentor each other.
And that really is a 21st century skill, collaboration, leadership. They were definitely engaged in their learning. And there's a comment here from Kay Novak I have to repeat. Only in Minecraft can you get away tossing fireballs at your students.
Oh, yeah, that's actually was a lot of fun, I have to admit.
Yeah. We had another question, and before we go to that, I just want to make one more pitch. We have about 9 minutes left, so you still can go ahead and type in comments for questions in the comments section in YouTube and also in Second Life. We have a few more minutes, and we will get to as many as we can. We've been answering them all through the webinar, and I think it's really helped the discussion. The questions have been excellent, so please keep them coming. The question is, you had said something about the 3 C's before, or three aspects of part of the rules of the game. Do you remember what that was about?
Our school has a code of 4 C's: courtesy, cooperation, compassion, and I'm forgetting the last one, so get docked on that one. And
okay.
That's our code of character.
So you build that into your activities also with gaming, I imagine.
Yes, we see this as an extended space of the school, and we expect the same kind of behavior. Okay.
So, I wanted to talk a little bit more about learning mastery and the skills that they're learning in this program that you have that aren't really measured in, say, the NJ Ask test or any kind of standardized test. I mean, how do you measure leadership? How do you measure collaboration? How do you measure the ability to resolve conflict? Those are very important skills, 21st century skills, but they're not being tested. Even though you can argue they're essential for being successful for college and career. I was looking at the EdSurge blast today. I don't know if anyone's familiar with the EdSurge listserv. They send out a newsletter once or twice a week, and if you're not getting it, I suggest you do and sign up at edsurge.com. But they had interviewed Deb Delisle. She was the U.S. Department of Education, is the U.S. Department of Education Assistant Secretary for the Office of Elementary and Secondary Education. They all have long titles. And they asked her about if the U.S. DOE was doing anything about mastery-based learning. And her response was, we're really at a crossroads in education and thinking about what to do about what do we really want our students to know. Let me start again. We're really at a crossroads in education and thinking about what do we really want our students to know and be able to do, and how do they demonstrate that ability. And I think that speaks right to the heart of your points before about what the students are learning through the game and the integration in the curriculum that they wouldn't get from standard and traditional teaching and learning. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, actually, I do, because I don't think we can take, this goes back to what Pat Bassett said, everything's shifted, and we're kind of just stuck in school trying to figure this out. I don't think we can measure this by the old standards, and I, as an educator, I think all educators are feeling very frustrated now that it seems like the more things change, the more we're holding on tightly to what we know, which is that old school assessment, and we value that so highly. And we're assessing the kids, and now we're assessing the teachers according to the kids. And from my point of view, we are assessing the wrong thing. We need to be assessing what we're teaching. I don't think that we can look at 21st century skills or the skills those kids need today, and I don't think we can measure them by the system that is in place. So as professionals, we're going to need to start having some serious discussions. I think I'm a teacher, I know when my kids are learning. I can see in the way they interact. I can see in the product and the artifacts. When you're talking about leadership, how do you test that? Well, we had a student who had a very difficult time with. He was leader, and the next time in the next game iteration, he wasn't voted to be a leader again. And he came to me in all sincerity and said, "Why wasn't I voted to be a leader?" I said, "Well, do you know the game well?" And he said, "Yes." I said, "Were you kind?" And he said, "No." I said, "Were you well organized?" "No." I go, "Do you know why you weren't voted to be a leader?" And he said, "Yeah, I guess so." And, that's real world feedback. And, a little common sense and a little perspective. And I think really, as if we give ourselves, just as we gave ourselves permission to play first before we worried about curriculum, and we keep play embedded as a big part of our curriculum. Just as we gave ourselves permission to do that, and it opened up all kinds of world, it opened the world to us and all kinds of new learning. I think when we give ourselves permission to look differently at assessment, that we're going to have an opportunity to maybe get unstuck and move forward and really start to meet our students' needs. My personal opinion.
No, and I totally agree. Have you, at the school, looked at the Mozilla badge movement as a consideration for possibly making that part of what your students will get out of the program, where they could walk out with a badge in machinima or in game design?
Absolutely. I took the Campa 3D Game Lab, really interested in the authentic use of, and I say authentic, I don't know what I think there's a real movement now with gamification that could go either way. You don't want to just like leaderboard kids, but I really like what they're doing. And if I had more time, I would want to design a program like that. Micah and I are talking a lot about how to help kids level up in leadership and be formalize that leadership role in mentoring. And I think badges and things like what 3D Game Lab is the way to go. My constraint is time because we're running to keep up with the kids. I'm hoping that people will step up, and I know a lot of people are looking at doing something more globally to recognize all this really cool learning that our kids are doing outside of school, that we're doing as teachers of professional development outside of school, recognizing that there are other paths to learning. And yeah, I would be very open to adopting some badge systems if they fit our program.
Yeah, I think one of the things that you've found is that the students in their evening activities, they're using social networking, they're using their mobile phones, they're using other technologies. Their learning is diffusing into their real life. And right. and I sent you a clip for a video this morning that was showing how the current connected learner is constantly connected and sharing, and we're not meeting them in their space anymore.
No.
And so the question is, as educators and as administrators, do we have a responsibility to meet them in their space, or do we want to keep trying to basically force them into ours? Do we want to keep using the factory style of education that was invented 100 years ago, or do we want to evolve with the rest of the environment and society and meet the students where they are?
Well, I think that's obvious. I mean, I believe that our task as a teacher is to serve our students, and if we're not looking at where they're living or trying to understand that, then we cannot serve them. We're looking backwards and trying to do what we know, and that's worked for a long time, but it's no longer working.
That video I mentioned is called The Voice of the Active Learner. If you Google it on YouTube or do a search on YouTube, you'll see it. It's only about a couple of minutes. And in there was one statistic. They stated that 53% of kids ages 16 to 22 would rather give up their sense of smell than their phone or laptop. So I think that's a pretty strong statement.
I feel that way too.
Now, we only have about a minute left. So is there anything that you want to say in closing in terms of how someone can get started with this? What are the first steps? And I guess I should say we're going to have resources up that you're going to give us that would help folks get started in Minecraft. That'll be on the resource page at Game when we have the recording up, hopefully in a few days.
We will do that, and a lot of there's already a lot of people gathering rationale, and there's no one right way to do this. You've got to find out what works for your school. I know Joe Levin has Minecraft EDU, which is a great entrance if you just feel overwhelmed, and they have he has a lot of support for entry level. I know that some people, like a sister school of ours, their kids set up the servers. That's certainly a way to go. We're getting a lot of options. So, and I actually know teachers, I won't mention any names here, who go rogue with their kids and find ways around the firewalls. You've got to find what works for you, but it's just, there's no one answer. It's just, we've got to go out there and try and push those boundaries back and partner with our students and our parents and get this work done.
That's great. And if anyone wants help with this, please visit us at the Game website. We had it up at the beginning of the broadcast. Or if you want to do a search in Google, just put in Gamers Advancing Meaningful Education, and you'll find the website there. I'd like to thank you, Marianne, or should I say No Clue, for spending the hour with us. I'd like to thank everyone for viewing, and hopefully we'll see you next month, third Thursday of the next month at 9 p.m. for our next broadcast. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Larry. And thank you, Kay and Chris and everyone. Thanks.